Hey guys, welcome back to YT Classroom. Today we are looking at 0580 Paper 4 Variant 2 from May-June 2024. This is Igcse Mathematics 0580. So if you're new to this channel, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel because more upcoming videos of the May-June 2024 papers are coming out soon. And yeah, let's start with this paper. So this is one of the most recent papers that has occurred for 0580, and indeed you should practice this paper along with other variants which I will be uploading soon if you are preparing for the October-November series. Best of luck to all of those who are appearing for that. Now this paper has 11 questions and we're going to look at each of them in detail along with the working required. At any time that you feel you have any doubts, do repeat the contents to ensure that you're fully understood it. If you have any doubts or if you feel that something has been done wrong, please feel free to comment down below or you can email me as well. So here's our first question here. Now this seems like a ratio question. So it says that basically a fruit drink is made using 1.5 liters of apple juice and 450 millimeters of mango juice. Write the ratio apple juice to mango juice in the simplest form. Now remember, we can't just use the ratios 1.5 to 450 because they have different units. So what I'm going to do is convert 1.5 liters to milliliters. Now I know that 1 liter is basically 1000 ml or milliliters. So 1.5 would be 1500 ml and 2 450. Now you don't stop here because it's the simplest form. So all you do is just get a calculator. 1500 divided by 450, that gives you 10 is to 3. So basically that fraction form you can write it here, 10 is to 3. Alright, I hope this question is clear. Now it says that 1 liter of fruit drink is shared between 3 cups. The amount in these cups is in the ratio 9 is to 6 is to 10. Calculate the number of milliliters in each cup. Now since it says 1 liter, so if answers milliliters, first thing is that 1 liter is basically 1000 ml. Then I need to see the total proportions of this. 9 plus 6 plus 10, that's going to be 25, right? 9 plus 6 plus 10 is equal to 25. Now to calculate each of the 3 different answers, what I would do is basically 9 over 25, that is one proportion into 1000 equals to something. 6 over 25 into 1000 and then 10 over 25 into 1000 as well. So when you do this, 9 over 25 into 1000, that gives you 360. So that's going to be one of our values, 360. 6 over 25 is going to be 240 and 10 over 25 going to be 400. So I'm going to write the values in the exact same order. Start with 9, so 360 ml for 9, 6, so 240 ml, and 10 is basically 400 ml. And when you add all of them up, 400 plus 240 plus 360 is 1000 ml. So the answer is correct. Now it says a shop buys bottles of the fruit drink for 320 each. It sells them at a profit of 15%. Calculate the selling price for each bottle of that fruit drink. Now if it's making a profit of 15%, one of the simple ways is that you basically calculate 115% because 100% is the cost and 15% will be the profit. So if you calculate 115% of 3.20, you would get your answer. To calculate 115%, I'll just do 115 over 100 into 3.20. Simply use a calculator. 115 over 100 into 3.20 gives you 3.68. 3.68. That's it. Moving on, it says the number of bottles of fruit drinks sold has grown exponentially at a constant rate of 2.5% per year. 5 years ago, the shop sold 16,620 bottles. Calculate the number of bottles which has sold this year. So basically, to calculate the number of bottles that you have sold this year, what you would do is you would take the initial number of bottles, which is 16,620. 1. Now since it's exponential growth, we'd use plus here, 2.5% to 2.5 over 100, raised to 5 years because that was 5 years ago. Simply use the calculator. 1 plus 2.5 over 100 raised to 5. That's going to give you 18804.0045, which can be taken as 18804. Since you're talking about bottles, it must be a whole number there. There should be no decimal values in that. I hope that's clear. Now moving on to question number, I believe 1E. Yeah. So the bottles of juice are 18.5 centimeter tall, connected nearest millimeter. They're stored on shelves. The distance between the shelves is 23 centimeters, correct to the nearest centimeter. Calculate the lower bound for the distance d, which is between the top of the bottle and the shelf above it. Now, basically, what they're trying to ask us is that this is stored in the bottle is stored on a shelf. Distance is 23 centimeters, correct to the nearest centimeter. That means the upper bound would be 23.5 and the lower bound would be 22.5. And the bottle's height is 18.5 to the nearest millimeters. That means 18.55 would be the upper bound and 18.4445 would be the lower bound. They're asking us for basically the lower bound of d. Now what would d be? D would be like this value, which is 23 minus 18.5. So in order to find the lower bound of this, what we would do is that we would take the lower bound of the 23 centimeter value minus the upper bound of the 18.5 centimeter value. So in order to calculate that, what we would do is basically, first of all, we would say the bounds for maybe, you can say the height for basically the distance of shelf, or you can say height of shelf would be. So when you do this, basically what do you get? 23, and you have 22.5 here, and you have 23.5. And for the height of bottle, what you're gonna say is basically 18.45, 18.5, as well as 18.55. I'm going to calculate the answer. So basically what I'm trying to use is 22.5 minus the 18.55. 22.5 minus 18.55. So that gives me 3.95, and that would be my final answer. Now in some cases, if you don't remember this rule, remember that in subtraction always, in addition, if you want to find the upper bound, you take upper bound of both the values, and lower bound of both the values. Whereas in subtraction, you have to take the opposites. If the first value is the upper bound, the second value would be lower bound. You can try out both of them and you would see that which one is the larger and which one is smaller, in case you don't remember. But it's better you remember this content, since you always have a question in your exam on this. Now moving on to question number 2, I believe. Yeah, so this is an angles question. The diagram shows a straight line intersecting two parallel lines. Find the value of A and find the value of B. In order to find the value of A, basically, if you see, this is a straight line. This line is a straight line. So A would be, the angle A plus 38 would be 180. A plus 38 would be equal to 180. So A would be, if you do 180 minus 38, that is basically 142. Now if A is 142, what do you think this angle would be? This angle would be 38. You can say it in two ways basically, because either you can say 180 minus 142, because again there's a straight line, so, or you can say vertically opposite angle. So this would be 38, 38. Now if this is 38, remember there is a co-interior angle here, or okay, you basically use alternate angles. Alternate angles are said, or basically in the angles in the Z shape. If you see, there's a Z being formed here. So this is 142, so at the other side the B would also be 142 and 142. If you do not understand this, I can explain the other method as well. If this is 38, and you remember co-interior angles always add up to 180. Co-interior angles basically means this shape. Alright, so they always add up to 180. So again, if you get that as 38, 180 minus 38 would be 142. This 38 and the bottom angles of co-interior angles would add to 180. So B would be basically 180 minus 38, that is 142. Moving on, we have next question here, which is that calculate the interior angle of a regular 12-sided polygon. For any of such questions, basically you have to do n minus 2 into 180. That would give you the sum of all the angles divided by n, because n is the number of sides. So what, replace n with 12 here. 12 minus 2 into 180 divided by 12. That's basically 10 into 180 divided by 12. That is going to give you 150 degrees. Alright, I hope this is clear. Now moving on to the next question. The diagram shows a circle with a center O. The points M and P lie on the circumference of the circle, and A and B is a tangent to the circle at M. Find the value of F and find the value of G. Now, when it says that A and B is basically a tangent to the circle, that means if it's a tangent, this angle is basically 90 degrees. The angle OMB or OMA is 90 degrees. And if this is 90 degrees, So basically they have given us 56 as well. So we would be able to find this angle, which is OMP, by simply doing 90 minus 56, that is 34. All right. Now, you guys gotta focus clearly here. If this is 34, then G would also be 34. How, you ask? Because if you see OM, that is this side, and if you see OP, they both are the radius of the circle. That means the circle is they both are the radii of the circle. So you can say that when they form a triangle which is OMP, it's going to be isosceles triangle because there are two equal sides. And whenever you have two equal sides, that means the base angles would be equal. Therefore, G would be 34. So for the value of G, what we do is basically 90 minus 34. 90 minus 56, which is equal to 34. They haven't asked us for reasoning here, otherwise you could also be asked to find the reasons. Now if G is 34, what do you think this angle would be? Remember, angles in a triangle always add up to 180. So in order to find angle MOP, we would basically do 180 minus 2 times 34. That gives you 112. Now the angle F would basically be the half of this, since this is a property of circles. So what we do is that 112 divided by 2 is 56. To write the working for this, you basically write 180 minus 2 times 34. That is going to give you 112. Now 112 divided by 2 is basically going to give you 112 divided by 2. 112 divided by 2 is basically going to give you 56 and 34. Moving on, it says the diagram shows a cyclic quadrilateral. Find the value of K. Now remember, what's the properties of a cyclic quadrilateral? That it has four sides which are touching the circumference of the circle, and when there is such a cyclic quadrilateral, the opposite angles will add up to 180. Now they're asking us to find K, so basically the opposite angle is this one. In order to find this angle, remember, look at this, there's a triangle given, and the angles and property of a triangle is that they all add up to 180. So in order to find that angle, we can do 180 minus 24 plus 27. So that's going to be one of first part of working. 180 minus 24 plus 27, that gives you 129. So we have 129 here. So K would be basically 180 minus 129, because K plus 129 would equal to 180. That's the property of cyclic quadrilaterals. So K would be equal to 180 minus 129. That's going to give you 51 degrees. So that's the answer for this part. Now moving on to question number 3, which says the diagram shows that the table shows the time that each of the 40 students takes to travel to school. Calculate the estimate of the mean. Now, estimate for the mean, you have to basically find the mid values, because it's a group frequency table. So in order to find the mid values, basically I'm going to write mid values of basically 0 and 10 is 5, 10 and 25 is basically 17.5, 25 and 40 is 32.5, and 40 and 60 would be 50. Now this is a very simple working. So you're going to take a long fraction, and basically what you're going to do is the frequency into the mid value. You're going to add them up. Basically first you're going to multiply and then you're adding. So write them in brackets. 18 into 17.5 plus 15 into 32.5 plus 4 into 50 divided by the total frequency, which is 40 students over here. Now simply insert all of this in your calculator. 3 into 5 plus 18 into 17.5 plus 15 into 32.5 plus 4 into 50 divided by 40. That's basically going to give you 25.4375, and since this is exact value, you can use the same value in your answer as well. I hope this is clear. Now in the grade it says draw a histogram to show the information in the table. Now in order to for the histogram, we basically have to use the frequency density. Frequency density is basically the frequency values over the class width. There's an important formula here. So frequency density is basically frequency divided by class width. Alright, I'm going to show you how to calculate it over here. So frequency density, first of all, imagine the frequency here is 3, and the class width is basically the difference between the lowest and the highest. That is 3 minus 3 divided by 10, because 10 minus 0 is 10. So frequency density is 0.3 here. When you're doing 18, so 18 is the frequency divided by 25 minus 10, which is 15. So that's going to be 1.2. Now when you do 15 over again 15, because 40 minus 25 is 15, that gives you 1. And when you do 4 over 60 minus 40, that is 20, that gives you 0.2. Now what you're going to do next is that we're going to plot these on the graph. So between 0 and 10, the frequency density is 0.3. 0.3 would be on this mark, that is this line. So what I'll do is 0 and 10, it's basically 0.3. all right. Now use your ruler and a pencil when you're doing this. Other one is basically that between 10 and 25 it's 1.2. Between 10 and 25 it's 1.2. So you would take it up here, 10 and 25, all right, and then 1.2, because you see 10 and 25 are on the bottom scale and 1.2 would be on the top scale. Then between 25 to 40 it's 1. So 25 to 40, I'm just going to continue, it is 1. And after that between 40 to 60 it has dropped to 0.2. So that would be all the way bottom till the end. Alright, let's say that 2 students are selected at random from the 40 students. Here the probability that one student takes more than 25 minutes and another student takes less than 10 minutes to travel to school. Now the total number of students are basically 40. Alright, and how many students take 25 minutes, more than 25 minutes? That would be basically these ones, because this is starting at 25. So 15 plus 4, which is 19. So 19 over 40. And we're going to multiply this. Now here we would use the total number of students as 39, because we've already taken one student from here. The remaining students are 39. And from 39, how many take less than 10 minutes to travel? Less than 10 minutes is basically 3. Now often students make the mistake that they would end their working here, but what you have to do is you have to add this to another side. That would be 3 over 40 into 19 over 39. That makes no difference because you're still multiplying the thing, but the point is, because you could pick the student first, which is using 25 minutes, more than 25 minutes, and the other one less than 10 minutes. So that would be first and second. But you can also do the student who takes less than 10 minutes and then pick the other one, which is more than 25 minutes. So to do it this way, simply insert this in a calculator. 19 over 40 into 3 over 39 plus 3 over 40 into 19 over 39. When you do this, what you get is basically, in your fraction form, you would get 19 over 260. You can just keep that value, 19 over 260. 19 over 260. All right. Now here says there's some information about the time that 200 people took to fill in a questionnaire. The longest time is 30 minutes. The median was 22. The lower quartile was 8 minutes. The interquartile range was 19 minutes, and the range was 25 minutes. Work out the shortest time taken. Look, the range is basically the longest time taken minus the shortest time taken. So if I can say that 25 is equal to the longest time taken minus x, so x would simply be 30 minus 25. So x is 5 then. Alright, that's easy, 5 minutes. Then it says draw a box and whisker plot to show this information. And the box and whisker plot, first of all, you got to plot the range, which is 5 and 30. So what I would do is 5 would be somewhere here, and 30 would be somewhere here. Alright, that's how you plot the range. Then where is the median at? The median is at 22 minutes. So I'm going to take 22 minutes and plot the median here. Where's the lower quartile? The lower quartile is at 8 minutes. Now you also need the upper quartile, but here the upper quartile is not given, but they've given the interquartile range. The interquartile range is basically the difference between the lower quartile and the upper quartile. The lower quartile is 8 minutes. If I add the interquartile range, which is 19, to that, I would get 27, and that would basically be my upper quartile. Alright, now I'll take this, and this is how it would look like. Now you can obviously choose smaller length for the lines. Now here we have a theoretical question, and it says that basically George said that 101 of the 200 people took more than 22 minutes to fill the questionnaire. Explain why is wrong. basically the median was 22 minutes. So if you guys understand that the median is 22, that is, where is median at 50%. So at least 100 people took basically 22 minutes. And if he's saying that 101 people took more than 22 minutes, the 101 is basically more than 50%. So that's why it's wrong. We would basically say that the median currently is 22 minutes. The median is 22 minutes, which represents 50% of the people, which represents 50% of the people. Alright, so if you had said that 100 out of the 200 people took more than 22, because it would be more than 22 indeed. Okay, it's not from this. So if it be 100 people, then I would indeed agree with him, because median is 22. That means the remaining people took more than 20. But if it says 101, then it's excluding that one person. Median, which means 50% of the people, and 101 is more than the 50% which you're trying to represent. Again, I'm going to explain. Median is 22 minutes. In this, they've given us a median is 22 minutes. So which means that the 100 people at least took 20 minutes. The remaining 100 took more than 22. But he's saying that 101 people took more than 22 minutes. That's wrong, because only 100 took. We can't be sure about the 101st person. Alright, and it would not be obviously, because otherwise the median would have been a bit higher. I hope this is clear. Now moving on to the next question. It says that a diagram shows a tank in the shape of a half cylinder with radius 12 centimeters and a length of 1 meter. The tank is fixed horizontally, completely filled with water. Calculate the volume of the water in the tank. Now whenever you have these types of shapes, what you're going to do is find the surface area, like the area on the front, and multiply it by the length. Okay. Now in order to find the area of this shape, which is a D shape, what I would do is I would take the area of the whole circle and divide it by half. I know this is half, so I'm going to start by half. Now what's the area of the circle? The area of the circle is pi r squared. The value of r is 12 here into square. Remember, pi r squared is given the whole circle, divided by half would give me only for this shape. Into, I would multiply this by 1 meter. Now remember not to do it by 1 meter but with 100 centimeters, because all the values are with 100 centimeters and the answer should be close to 10 centimeter cube. Multiply this by 100. Now when you do this, what you get is half into pi into 12 squared into 100. Now that's giving us something like 22619.46711. Nearest to 10 would be 22620. Alright, 22620. Alright, now moving on, it says that water is removed from the tank. So you gotta, this one was full. Water is removed from the tank until the level of the tank is 6 centimeters below the top of the level. So the gray part represents the new water level. The diagram shows the cross section. Calculate the volume of the water that is now in the tank. So basically, if you find this area, that is basically this unshaded area, then we would be able to find the area of water in the cross section. You can multiply it and you'll be able to find the volume of water. Now, how would you find the area of this? This is a complex task, and it requires a bit of understanding here. You can't simply use a Pythagoras theorem as well. But now remember that this part is basically the part which is here as well, the center. This is the back part, and from this point which I have drawn to any of the circumference, such as like this line, or if I could take this line, it would be basically 12 centimeters, because that is representing the radius. Alright, 12 centimeters and 12 centimeters. Now you see there are two right angles, basically because the whole thing was a right angle, this and this. So I could indicate that this triangle that I've drawn, this triangle, that's the triangle A, and triangle B, both are right angle triangles. I could find the area first. Now how would I find, if I want to find the area, for area is half BH, so I would need to know the base, this base, which I can calculate using Pythagoras theorem. Square root of 12 squared minus 6 squared is giving me 6 root 3. So this would be 6 root 3, and this also would be 6 root 3. I'm writing the exact value so that my answer doesn't mess up. Always when you're doing while the calculations, the answer should be in this form. Alright, so first of all, let me calculate the area of both of them. Since they both are the same, I could just say 2 times half into the base, which is 6 root 3, into the height, which is 6. Okay, 2 times half into 6 root 3 into the height, which is 6. That is going to give you 36 root 3. I'm going to leave it in this form as for now. Now, if you see the other part, which I could indicate, let's say x and y, these basically look like the parts of the circle. That means if there's a certain theta angle here and here, then I could use theta, which is 360 into pi into r squared, r is 12, and find the radius. But what would be this angle theta? For that, I could basically find this angle first in this right angle triangle. If I find this angle, then it would be 90 minus that. In order to find this angle, I have all the three sides. So I'm going to use my favorite, which is tan. Okay, tan is basically opposite, which is going to be this side, and adjacent, which is going to be 6. So first of all, tan theta is going to be opposite over adjacent. So in order to find theta, I could simply say tan inverse of opposite, which is 6 root 3, divided by the adjacent, which is 6. Alright, let me just check that. Yep, 6 root 3 over 6, indeed. So tan inverse of 6 root 3 divided by 6 is going to give me the theta would be 60 degrees. So if this part is 60 degrees and the whole thing was 90, okay, let me zoom in. So if this part is basically 60 degrees, that means this part must be 30 degrees. And I've got two of them which are same, so I could simply say another area would be 2 times the angle is 30 over 360 into pi into the radius squared. What's the value of the radius here? The value of the radius is 12 squared. Just put this in the calculator. 2 times 30 over 360 into pi into 12 squared. Now this formula is a part of a syllabus, so you must know what does this indicate. That is 24 pi. Alright, now I've gotten the area. Now what is the total area initially? I have to find that so that we can calculate the difference. What is the total area initially? If you want to find the total area, it's basically half of pi into the radius squared, because it's a D shape, so it's indicating half of circle. So pi into 12 squared into 0.5, which is representing half, is going to give me 72 pi. So in order to find the area now, it's very simple. The total area is 72 pi, and the unshaded one is basically 24 pi plus 36 root 3. When you do this, what you would get is 24 pi plus 36 root 3 is going to give you 88.4426183. Now remember, this is only the surface area. In order to find the volume of that is this is representing, I would need to multiply it with the length. The length is again 1 meter, so that is 100 centimeters. So I'm going to take this value, that is 88.4426183, multiply it by 100. What would you get is basically 8844.26183. Three significant figures would be basically 8. Alright, just give me 1 minute. Three significant figures would be what's this pen not working? 8840. I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next question. This is a complex question, so do use your time wisely for this question. It is a rectangular fish tank with a length of 42 centimeters and a width of 35 centimeters is full of water. There is a stone which lies at the bottom of the tank, and when the stone is removed from the tank, the depth of the water increases by 0.2 centimeters. The density is given, find the mass. Now, it says that when there is a stone, so there's a rectangular fish tank which is 42 and 35, and it's full of water. But when you remove the stone, the depth decreases by 0.2 cm. So first of all, we can find the volume of the stone. The volume of the stone in centimeters cubed, the volume of the stone would be the length of the, because it's taking 42 centimeters, the length of the water remained the same, 35 centimeters. The only thing that changed is 0.2 centimeters. Remember, because what I'm trying to do here is that there's a whole tank of water, and when there's a stone inside, so when the stone is removed, the density of the volume must have decreased. I'm just trying to find out how much has it decreased by. When it decreased, the length and the width remain the same, so I'm taking the same thing, but the height decreased by 0.2, so that must be equivalent to the volume of the stone. Alright, 42 into 35 into 0.2. That's giving me 294. Now it says that density here is mass divided by volume. These are not the exact units. It doesn't really matter here. So when you find the mass, it will be 294 into the, that is the volume, into the density, which is 2.2. That's going to give you 646.8, which you can choose to write it this as well, or 647 for 3 significant figures. Alright, you guys, I hope you guys understand, because what I've tried to do is that when you remove the stone, the volume of the water must decrease. The length and the width have remained same. The only decreases in the depth, so that means that must be equivalent to the volume of the stone. I found that and I simply used it over here. Moving on, provides say the diagram shows a cuboid A, B, C, D, F, G, H. Calculate the angle that AG makes the base of the cuboid. AG is this length. So we're going to find this angle. So for this angle, you have to find this, the length AC first. AC, which is square root of 8 squared plus 12 squared. When you do that, square root of 8 squared plus 12 squared is going to give you 4 root 13. I'm not going to write the whole value here. Then in order to find this opposite, I have adjacent, I have, so I can use tan theta. So theta would equal tan inverse. The opposite value is 15 and the adjacent value is 4 root 13. Tan inverse, opposite value is 15 over adjacent value is 4 root 13. That's going to give you basically 46.1 degrees. 46.1 degrees. So now we'll be looking at question number 5. The question number 5 part A says that 25x raised to 6 raised to 3 over 2. Now we could consider 25 and x raised to 6 two different terms. So that will be 25 raised to 3 over 2 x into the x already is a power of 6, and when there's already a power, there's a power outside the bracket, you just multiply them. So 6 into 3 over 2. Now 25 raised to, basically use the calculator, 25 raised to 3 over 2 is giving you 125. We put x 6 into 3 over 2. That's going to give you 9, because 6 into 3 is 18 divided by 9. So that's going to give you 125x raised to 9. 125x raised to 9. Now it says that these are the first 5 terms of a sequence. Find the nth term of a sequence. Now if you see here, basically that all of these terms are basically multiplying by 6. So for example, if you have 1 by 6, you multiply that by 6, you get 1. Then you multiply 1 by 6, you get 6. And 6 into 6 is 36 and 216. Alright, so what I could do here is that the first thing could be, because it's 1 by 6, that means I know that this is 6 to the power of something. Everything would be 6, it can be written as 6 into the power of 6 to the power of 2, 6 to the power of 1, 6 to the power of 0, 6 to the power of negative 1, let me confirm that, and 6 to the power of 3 would give me 216. Okay, but n is basically 1 here, n is 2 here, n is 3, n is 4, n is 5. Alright, so there's a constant difference between the 6th power and the nth power of basically 2, because 1 minus 2, 2 minus 2, 3 minus 2. So I could simply say, if I had 6 and if I have the value of n, then I could simply do minus 2. Then I would get, if for example n is 1, so I would get negative 1. If n is 2, then I would get 0. If n is 3, then I would get 1. 4, I'll get 2, and 5 is 3. So indeed, this would be the final answer. You can check, for example, if I want the 5th term now, so I would simply take 6 raised to n minus 2, n is 5, so 5 minus 2 is 3, 6 raised to 3 is 216. Alright, now it says expand and simplify. So it's simple, you have to multiply and then you have to expand. Now, whenever there's this type of case where there's a 3x outside, I would prefer to do this part first and then this part later. You would see over time why with practice this is easier. When you're doing this type of expansion, you have to multiply x first with 3x, which means 3x squared, x into negative 1, so negative x, negative 3 into negative 3x, that's going to get negative 9x, and negative 3 into negative 9 is going to positive 1. Alright, simplify this, 3x squared, negative x minus negative 9, negative 10x plus 1. Then the next part is basically you take x plus 4 and multiply it with 3x squared minus 10x plus 1. Alright, now x into, basically all of these terms are going to be multiplied with x, just if you want to do it quickly. So 3x squared into x would be 3x cubed, negative 10x is squared because x will be squared, and this would simply be an x. Then what you're going to do is 4 into 3, which is 12x squared, negative 40x plus 4. Then you want to simplify, so 3x cubed remains as it is. Negative 10 plus 12, that's going to give me 2x squared because they're the same coefficients. X minus 40x, 1 minus 40, that's going to be negative 39x. Have I made a mistake somewhere? Let's just check for it. X into 3x, or 3x squared minus x minus 9x. So negative 3 into 1 would be basically 3 there. Positive 3. So 3x squared minus 10x plus 3. Alright. So x plus 4 negative. Okay, yep. 10x plus 3. So when you multiply, the only difference would be 3x squared minus 10x plus it would be 3x here. Alright, and 4 into 3 would be basically 12. I've just written it 3x cubed plus 2x squared. 3x minus 40, when you do 3 minus 40, you get negative 37x plus 12. 3x cubed, and I can't simplify it anymore since there is nothing common here. Negative 37x plus 12. Alright, I hope this is clear. Then it says that show that 3x plus 5 plus 7 over x minus 2 is equals to x. Simplifies to this expression. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to take 3x minus 5 to the other side. So that would isolate 7 over x minus 2 is equals to x. This is being added here, so I would subtract this x minus 3x minus 5. Alright, so 7 over x minus 2. If I simplify it, I could say 1 minus 3 is negative 2x minus 5. Alright, then I would just multiply x minus 2 with that. So 7 is equals to x minus 2 being multiplied with this, that is negative 2x minus 5. Alright, so 7 is equal to, when you expand this, negative 2x squared, negative 5x plus 4x plus 10. So 7 is equal to negative 2x squared, negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1x, so that's negative x plus 10. And if I bring 7 to the other side, so that would be negative 2x squared, negative x, 10 minus 7 is basically positive 3. Now, as you can see, the signs are different here. So you might be confused here what to do. But remember, there's a 0 here. So if you take like negative to the other side, that would be positive 2x squared, negative x to the other side, that would be positive x. And then you simply do negative 3. Negative 3, right? That's how you get it. This would get you only 4 marks, which is very easy. Solved by factorization. Now in factorization, what you have to do is you have to find a number, you have to find two numbers whose sum is the coefficient of this, which is 1. So sum should be 1. And the product should be negative 3 into negative 2. And this is negative 3 into negative 2, negative 6. Now negative 6, basically, if I check, then if I do negative 2 plus 3, that gives me negative 2 plus 3. It gives me 1. And negative 2 into 3, it gives me negative 6. Solved by factorization. Okay. So add this expression, 2x squared plus x minus 3 is equal to 0. 2x squared, I can write this as negative 2x plus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0, because negative 2 plus 3 would still be x. Then I can take 2x common from here because it's being squared. So 2x times x would give me 2x squared minus 1, plus if I take 3 common here, then it will be x minus 1 as well. Then I will simply say 2x plus 3, which is from here, and x minus 1 as well. Then, since if they've been both being multiplied, that means both of them can be equivalent to 0. So 2x plus 3 can be 0, and x minus 1 can be 0. So in that case, x could be negative 3 by 2, or x could be 1. X could be negative 3 by 2, or x could be 1. So 1, negative 3 by 2 is negative 1.5. Alright, I hope this is clear. Now moving on to the next part, it says the solid cylinder has a base radius x and a height 3x. The total surface area of the cylinder is the same as the total surface area of the solid hemisphere of radius 5y. Total surface area of the cylinder is the same as the total surface of solid hemisphere of 5y. Show that x squared is 75y squared over 8. First, let's find the total surface area of the cylinder. They're basically telling us the surface of the cylinder and the solid hemisphere of the radius 5y is same. First, let's find the cylinder. Now, the cylinder surface area basically it has two circles on the top and bottom. So, now to find the area of them, I would simply choose 2 pi into basically r squared. R is x. So, simply do x squared. Okay, that's when giving both. And in order to find the basically the area of the rounded edges, I could simply take the circumference of the top circle multiplied by the height, because when you unfold it will look like a rectangle. What is the circumference now? Circumference is basically 2 pi r, 2 pi x. If I multiply that by the height, that will give me this one. Alright, multiply that by height. Now when I simplify this, I would basically get 2 pi x squared, because pi x squared and then multiply by 2, plus when I multiply this, I get 6 pi x squared. That is 8 pi x squared on one side. This is for the cylinder. Okay. Now the other one, I'm going to do it for basically the hemisphere. Now hemisphere is like basically if you take a ball or if you take a sphere and then you cut it into half. So the surface area would include the now here they've given us a formula for sphere. We would simply divide it by 2. So when you do 4 pi r, the value of r is 5y. So when you do 5y squared into 5y squared divided by 2. What is this going to lend you is basically 4 pi divided by, okay, that's going to give you 4 pi into 25y squared divided by 2. That is 100 pi y squared divided by 2, and that is 50 pi y squared. 50 pi y squared. But remember, imagine that you take a circle and you half it, so there is a bottom surface also that you have to consider. And what will be the area of the bottom surface? It's simple. We can basically add it to here. It would simply be pi into the, so what's the area of a circle? Pi into r squared. The value of r is 5y, so I could simply take 5y and then square the whole thing. This is going to give me 50. Okay, this is going to give me 50 pi y squared plus 5y squared is 25y squared, 25 pi y squared. I hope that is clear, because you have to take the bottom surface as well. Now they're telling us that both of them are equal. So what I'm going to say is that 8 pi x squared is equals to 50 pi y squared plus 25 pi y squared would be 75 pi y squared. So what I have to show is the formula for x squared. X squared would simply be 75 pi y squared divided by 8 pi. Because pi and pi are being divided, so you can cancel them out. So x squared would be 75 y squared divided by 8, because I don't cancel out, I only cancel out pi. So that is the same as an expression, and therefore this is the answer. Now we will move on to question number 6. Now we'll move on to question number 6, where it says that ABCD is a quadrilateral with AB equals to 10.4 centimeters, AD equals to 6.5 centimeters, angle DAB is given as 64, angle BDC is given as 26 degrees, and angle DBC is given as 42 degrees as shown on the diagram as well. Now the first part says show that BD equals 9.55 centimeters. So I have to basically find this length. Now remember that in any triangle, if you want to find a length, so basically all you need is the length of two other sides and the angle. As you can see, we have two other sides and we have the angle between them, then you can easily find it. So the formula here is a squared is equals to b squared plus c squared. Just a minute here. C squared minus 2bc cos of the angle in between, cos of a. So in order to find the length of BD, the whole square of BD, I would do 10.4 squared plus 6.5 squared minus 2 times 10.4 times 6.5 cos of 64. Then you would simply put the whole thing in your calculator. When you take your calculator and put this, so you would get basically 10.4 squared plus 6.5 squared minus 2 times 10.4 times 6.5 times cos of 64. So when you do that, you get basically 91.14222.095. So in order to find BD, you need to basically square root this value, because this is the value for BD's square. So when you do square root of 91.14222.095 and you square root it, the answer you would get is basically 9.55 here. So 9.5, it says show that, right? So you write the whole value 9.5468437.43507, and this, when you wanted to do 2 decimal places, it would give you 9.55 cm in 2 decimal points. Alright, I hope this is clear. Now it says show that angle BCD is equal to 112 degrees. BCD refers to this angle. Now this is a pretty easy question because you can see that BDC is actually forming a triangle. If you use the angle sum property for triangle, which is these three angles would add up to 180. So I could simply say this is 42 and 26. So 42 plus 26 plus BCD would equal to 180. So BCD would equal to 180 minus 42 minus 26. I've taken them to the other side, and when I subtract them, what would I get? BCD is equals to 112. Alright, now it says calculate CD. CD is basically this one. Now in order to calculate CD, we could use the sine rule. The sine rule basically involves the length we're trying to find and the angle opposite it. So when we find CD, the angle we would use is 42. And what is one more length that we know? That is BD. I mean, we know the length of BD, and we also know the angle, which is BCD. So first of all, the length CD, which I'm trying to find, over the sine of the angle. Now what is the angle there? The angle is basically this one, which is 42, opposite to this. So angle is 42, sine 42 is equivalent to, basically I would say, another sine, that is, now what is the length of BD? I would need to take the exact value, that is 9.54 divided by the sine. Now what is the angle opposite to BD? That's basically 112. So sine of 112. So CD would be simply sine 42 into 9.54684357 divided by sine 112. When I do this and I simply put this in my calculator, so sine of 42 into 9.54684357 divided by sine of 112, I basically get 6.89, and I think that should be the correct answer, 6.89. Alright, next it says find the shortest distance from D to AB. Now whenever you have such a question where it asks you to find the shortest distance from D to AB, always remember to take this point D and you take a straight line, and remember that this would be a right angle. Okay, this would be basically a right angle. Next step, what you're going to find is the length of this line. You could simply use we know that 64 angle is given, so we need to find, we have opposite and we have the hypotenuse. So you could use like sine, that is sine 64 would be x, that is we are trying to find, over the length of the hypotenuse, that is 6.5. So x would be basically sine 64 into 6.5. Sine 64 into 6.5 is 5.84. Alright, you put this here. I hope this is clear. Moving on, we have question number 7. And question number 7, it says that first part, solve 3x minus 8 is equal to 6 minus 4x. So you need to bring all the terms with x on one side and all the terms without x on the other side. So when I bring the 4x to this side, 3x plus 4x, because the sign will change, and the 8 to the other side, 6 plus 8. So 7x is equals to 8 plus 6, which is 14. So x is 2 then. That's one of your answers. Next up, it says factorize fully 10a squared plus 5a. Now what is common in them? In both of them, I can see that 10 and 5 are both multiples of 5. So I could take 5 common, and there's also a in both. So I would take a common. Now what do I need to multiply with 5a to get 10a squared? I basically need to multiply it with 2a, because 5 into 2 would be 10 and a into a would be a squared. Plus, what do I need to multiply with 5a to get 5a? Just 1. So that would be my answer. I can't simplify this any further. 2a plus 1. Next question, factorize fully 2x minus 3 squared minus 9. Now when you do 2x minus 3 squared minus 9, you would first of all need to expand this. That is 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3, because we're squaring it or multiplying by the whole, and then subtract with 9. Now what is 2x into 2x? That's 4x squared. What is 2x into negative 3? That's negative 6. 2x into negative 3, negative 6. And 9, basically 3 plus 3, 3 into 3 is 9. Negative, negative, positive, minus 9. So that gives you basically 4x squared minus 12x. Now in this, basically, because 9 and 9 will cancel out each other, I can take 4x common. When I take 4x common, what do I need to multiply with 4x to get 4x squared x? And what do I need to multiply with 4x to get negative 12x? So basically minus 3. So 4x into negative 12x. So this would be my final answer. 4x into x minus 3. Next up, it says find f of 4. When I want to find f of 4, I would basically take this function and replace the value of x with 4. So 1 over 4 times 1 minus 1. That's going to give you 1 over 15. Alright. Now it says find g2. Now what does this mean? This means that we would take the function g, which is g of x is equal to 3 raised to x. So firstly, we would raise 3 raised to 2 because that's the number given. That is 9. And now we would again take the same function and use the output of this as the input to that. That means the output we have got, the first one is 9. And we would simply do 3 raised to 9 using a calculator. That's going to give you 19,683. 19,683. Now it says find k when g of k is equals to f of 7. When basically g of k, that is 3 raised to x, no, 3 raised to k, we don't know the value of k, is equals to f of 7. F of 7 would mean 1 over 4, 7 minus 1. So then 3 is raised to k. I would simplify this. 4 into 7 is 28, minus 1 is 27. So they're telling us that basically 3 raised to something is 1 over 27. Now you guys know that when we raise 3 to 3 cubed is 27. So 3 raised to negative 3 is basically 1 over 27. You can even use the calculator to verify this. So therefore k would be negative 3. K would be negative. I don't need to find all of that. Negative 3. Now we will move on to the next question. Now we are looking at question number 8, which says a baker decorates X small cakes and Y large cakes. In one day, he decorates not more than 16 small cakes, less than 10 large cakes, more small cakes and large cakes, and a total of not more than 24 cakes. One of the equalities that shows this information is x is less than 16. X represents small cakes, so x is like he cannot have more than 16 small cakes in it. He can have 16 but not more than 16. So this goes to this one. Write down 3 other inequalities in x and or y. So the next inequality we want is this sentence, less than 10 large cakes. That means y is supposed to be less than 10. It cannot be less than or equal to less than 10. More small cakes and large cakes. Small cakes is basically x and large cakes is y. I want more of them, so I would simply say this one and x would be greater than y. A total of not more than 24 cakes. That means I can have 24 cakes but not more than that. So when I add x plus y, it cannot be greater than 24. It can be 24 but not be greater than 24. On the grid, draw 4 straight lines and shade the unwanted regions to show these inequalities. Label the region R which satisfies the 4 inequalities. The first inequality is x is less than, so basically first is x is 16. I would simply use my ruler, and you guys also have to use the rulers and pencils. So draw a vertical line at x is 16, right, as you can see this line. Then the next line is y is less than 10. Remember, when there is no equality symbol, you have to use a dashed line. You have to use a dashed line, and this indicates that the point cannot be on this one, whereas for the bold line, the point can be on that line. Alright, so y is 10. Alright, then the next question is basically x is greater than y. If you're often confused, you just replace this equality symbol with the equal symbol when you're drawing the line. Now again, there is no equality here, like there's only greater than, so I would just use a dashed line again. And if x is greater than y, that means 0, 0 should be equal in 26 and 26. So a straight line like this. X plus y is equals to 24. Now this is often confusing, so what you would do is you would rearrange this in the form y equals to mx plus c. So y is equals to 24 minus x. That means the y-intercept is 24 and it touches the x at 24 also. Negative x means that the gradient is basically negative 1. It's a decreasing gradient. And this has the equality symbol, so I would use a bold line here. And it would look something like this. Now this is not complete yet because I need to shade those parts which are not in the in the correct region. So in unwanted region, x should be less than 16. I've drawn this bold line. X will be less than 16. So any area where x is greater than 16 is invalid. That means not this region, not this region. You should do this much more neatly. I'm doing it because I not have a lot of time. All right. So it cannot exist in this region. All right. The next one, y is less than 10. So that means y should be less than 10. So therefore regions above y are not correct. Then next one, x should be greater than y. Now here the line x is greater than y, and students including myself, I was often confused that where should we highlight, above this or below this. So I was told a trick that when you're not sure, you just take any point. For example, below this line I take this point, or maybe I could take this point rather. You see 8 and 4. So when I compare the x values and y values, x is, because x is 8 and y is 4 on this point, x is indeed greater than y, right? So that means this is the correct region because it's satisfying the equation. So above this on the other side, it would be not correct. I would just use my highlighter to mark this. Just take the point and see if it satisfies. If it satisfies, that means the above part. If it not satisfies, that means this part is not the correct part. Now as you can see, we're left with this region, but this small region as well. So you have to check which one is it. Let me just make this a bit correct. Yeah. Now the last part is that x plus y is less than 24. I would use the same technique. For example, if I take this point, 8 plus 4 is 12, which is less than 24. That means this region is correct and this region is basically not correct. So now simply what you're going to do is mark this region as R. I hope this part is clear. There's one more part to this question, which says that the baker earns $8 for decorating a small cake and 12 for decorating a large cake. So large is Y. For that he earns 12 and 8 is small. Use this diagram to find the largest amount the baker can earn in one day by decorating cakes. Now, in these questions, they often ask you to ask for the extreme, so you have to always look at the corners here. We want the maximum of x values and the maximum of y values. One could be here, but like this point, that is where I'm putting the x, but there's on a dashed line, so this is not possible. The next maximum point is that when you put x as 15, where I've put my second x now, x as 15 and basically y value as 9, right? So I think this would be the point. If x is 15 and y is 9, for example, x is 15 and y is 9, so then 15 into 8 plus 9 into 12, that is going to give you 15 into 8 plus 9 into 12. That gives you 228, and I believe this is the correct answer. You can try out other values if you're not sure, but remember it can't be on the dashed line. That is representing greater than or less than, but the bold line representing equal, so that it can't exist on that line. And this is the maximum because this has, I think, the maximum of x and y values. You can try other corner points, but I think this would be the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. Now we'll be looking at question number 9. Question number 9a part says that OAB is a sector of a circle, center O radius 17 centimeters, and OCD is a sector of a circle, center O radius 10 centimeters. OCA and ODP are straight lines and angle AOB is 60 degrees. The perimeter of the shaded shape ABDC can be written in the form A pi plus B centimeters. Find the value of A and find the value of B. Now what they've said is that they've given us two sectors. One sector is this smaller one, that is OCD, with a radius of 10 and angle of 60. Another sector is a major one, it's like a bigger one with the same angle of 60 but a radius of 17. So they have asked us to find the perimeter of this shape, that is like the gray shaded shape, in the form A pi plus B. Now, in order to find the perimeter of this shape, you will need the length of this side, which is basically the circumference of the bigger basically sector, and this side, which is circumference of smaller one, and you also need this and this. So first of all, in order to find the perimeter, I would basically do, you can see that this side, the side I'm pointing to, the drawn circles on, this both would be 7 centimeters because 17 is the total length from O to B and O to A, and 7 is the length from O to D and O to C. So the difference would be 7 centimeters. So I have two sides already, 7 plus 7. Now, in order to find the length of DC, or basically this CD length, for CD, I can simply use my formula, that is 60 over 360, which is the angle, into 2 pi. 2 pi r is the formula for the circumference, and r is 10. I would simply keep it this, and in order to find the length of AB, again I would use a similar formula. The angle would be same, 60 over 360 into 2 pi, which would be the same, only the change thing is radius. I would simply copy down this here because then I can use them in a calculator directly. 60 over 360 into 2 pi into 10, alright, plus 60 over 360 into 2 pi into 17. Now you see that our answer is required in the form A pi plus B. That means that these 7 plus 7 terms, if you write it separately, so they can represent B, and this, the the two brackets, if we solve them together, the answer would be some form of multiple of pi. Alright, so I would simply say 7 plus 7 is 14, and if I calculate this in my calculator, 60 over 360 into 2 pi into 10, that is 20 pi, plus 60 over 360 into 2 pi into 17, that is 34 pi. That's going to give me 9 pi. So my answer is again in the form 9 pi plus 14, which is a pi plus b. So a would be 9 and b would be 14. I hope you have understood. What you have done is that we are going to find the perimeter of this. We got the two sides, which are 7. AB is the circumference of the sector OAB, and CD is the circumference of the sector OCD. The radiuses of which are given. I hope this is clear. Now moving on to the next question. It says the diagram shows a regular hexagon. The area of the hexagon is given. Show that the length of one side of the hexagon is 7 centimeters, correct to one decimal place. Now, this is a bit of a tricky question and given 4 marks for it. So that we know the area, but we have to show that one side is basically 7 centimeters. Now, if we take this point center and we draw 6 equilateral triangles, because all the lengths will be equal, it would be somewhat like this. Alright, and we can split all of these equilateral triangles into basically 2 parts. That is, both of the parts being equal. That means now there were 6 initially, we have split each of them into 2, so they have 12 equilateral triangles, all of them currently being equal. Alright, let me just redraw this into much more cleaner diagram. So initially I took a starting point. This was one line, and then this, and then this, this, and this. Then I split each of the equilateral triangle into a right angle triangle. So now I have 12 right angle triangles. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if I know the area of the one triangle in terms of x, then I can multiply that by 12 and I would get the length of one side. Now let's think about this. Alright, if you have this right angle, okay, first let me draw the equilateral triangle so that you guys can understand. This was the center point that we took, or let me reverse order, it would be more easy to understand. So imagine that this is one of the top triangles that we took from here. So this was the point I connected from, and this is the outer side of the hexagon. This side is basically the outer side. So what I did was I split this. Alright, now when I split this, basically I know that, for example, if I call the whole length x, that is the whole outer side x, then this side would be x by 2. Alright, and this side would also be x because this is connecting from the center to the edge, so it would be x. What is the area of a, now if I draw a correct form of this, I know that one side, the hypotenuse, is basically x, and the short side is x over 2. The area is basically half base into height, so I would need to find this side as well. This side. I can simply say x squared minus 0.5, because x over 2 can be written as 0.5x. The whole thing would be squared as well. Square root of that would be give me this answer. Now this seems a bit complicated to you, but what I would do is I would simply do root of x squared minus, when you do 0.5 into 0, basically 0.5x the whole squared can be said as first square of 0.5. 0.5 squared is 0.25, and x squared would be x, basically x squared will be x squared like this. So there you get 0.75 x squared. Alright, I hope this is clear. Now remember that this is the height value. So I hope you have gotten that how I create rectangles. Now I could simply say that I have 12 rectangles, and then what I would do is, what is the area of one of them? That is half into the base length, which is, now the base length I've gotten from here, remember it's 0.5x, this one. So 0.5x is my base length, and the height is this part, which is 0.75 x squared. Alright, is equals to 127.3. Alright, now when I want to simplify, I would take 12 to the other side, and what is half into 0.5? That is 0.5 into 0.5. 0.5 squared is giving me 0.25. So when I multiply both of these terms, I would get x into, now remember that 0.75 x squared can be separated into 0.75 root and x squared root, and when I find the square root of x squared, it's simply x. So simply 0.75 x squared, x only, because then only 0.75 would be left, is equals to 127.3 divided by 12. 12 coming from this side, it goes down in division. Alright, now I get basically, when I try to multiply these both, simply use a calculator. 0.25 into root of 0.75 is basically root 3 divided by 8 x squared is equals to 127.3 divided by 12. If I want to find x squared now, I would simply divide this whole fraction on the other side. 127.3 divided by over 12 divided by root 3 divided by 8. Alright, then what is the result of this? That's for something that you have to find. 127.3 divided by 12 divided by root 3 over 8. Okay, whatever result you're getting, I'm getting x squared is equals to 48.997799285. And when I take the square root of this answer, the whole value, take the whole value and square root, I'm getting 6.999842344. That is simply can be said as 7.00 cm. So I hope this is clear. You should watch this part of the video once again because this is not an easy question. And indeed, when I gave this exam myself, I found this question difficult. But I did a similar method and I got my answer, so I hope you guys have also understood this. Now next part says that the hexagon is a cross-sectional section of a prism of length 10 centimeters. Find the volume. Remember in the similar question, the volume would be the surface area into the length, which is 127.3 surface area. The length is 10 centimeters, that is 1273. You can see this pretty easy question, that's why I'm only given 1 mark here. Then find the surface area of the prism. The surface area is the whole area. So I could, now remember that with 2 hexagons, one on the back also, so I could add up those areas, 127.3. Now you gotta be a bit careful and use a 3D illusion here. You see this type of rectangle here? How many of such would exist? If you count them, you would have 6 of these rectangles. So you put 6 here. And then now what is the length of each, which would be the same as 10, and the width of each would be 7, because you see this, all of these sides are equal, so 10 into 7. Now put that into calculator. 2 times 127.3 plus 6 times 10 into 7. That's going to give you 674.6, which is simply said 675. So 675 cm squared. I hope this question was clear. This was a bit difficult part, so do take your time through it. Now we'll move on to the next question. Now we are looking at question number 10, where it says that A is the point 62 and B is the point 3 and negative 4. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of AB. For the midpoint, all you have to do is add up the x values, which is 6 and 3, and find the half of them. That is 6, basically 6 plus 3 divided by 2. 6 plus 3 is 9, divided by 2 is 4.5. And you do the same for y values. Now 2 plus minus 4, that is 2 minus 4, divided by 2 is negative 1. So your answer is 4.5 and negative 1. Easy. Just find basically adding up both of them and then you divide them. Calculate the length of AB. For the length, the formula is that x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So do the same thing. What is the value of x2? That is 3, minus the value of x1, that is 6, square that, plus y2 negative 4 minus 2. Just put this in the formula. When you do this, what you get is 3 minus 6 squared plus negative 4 negative 2 squared. That gives you basically 6.71. 6.71. Okay. Yep. 6.71. I hope this is clear. 4.5 negative 1 and 6.75. Now moving on, it says that the gradient of the line L is given as 4x plus 3y minus 12 is 0. Find the gradient of L. Now whenever you want to find the gradient, always remember that the equation should be in the form y is equals to mx plus c, which it is not currently now. So in order to make this, isolate y to one side and put everything else, that is 12 will go to the other side, minus 4x. You see y still has a coefficient and we don't want that coefficient, so we divide that. 12 minus 4 over 3 times x is being multiplied with 4. So y is basically equals to 12 over 3 is 4 minus 4 over 3x. Now what is the gradient? The gradient is the value which is the coefficient of x. Coefficient is negative 4 over 3. Or because there is a negative sign, to put the negative signs, negative 4 over 3. That's the gradient. Find the coordinate of the point where L crosses the y-axis. Now when it says crosses the y-axis, it basically means that what is the value of what is the value of y when x is 0? Because on the y-axis, the vertical axis, x values will always be 0. So y is equals to 4 minus 4 by 3 times 0. When you multiply negative 4 by 3 into 0, you get 0, so y would equal to 4. So that means when x is 0, y is 4. I hope this is clear. Now moving on, it says that line P is perpendicular to L and passes through 6, 5. So the L equation we have, there's another line P and it's perpendicular and passing through this point. Find the equation in the form y is equal to mx plus a. The first thing to remember is that if you want to find the gradient of the perpendicular line, all you have to do is the negative reciprocal, or you take negative 1 divided by the gradient of the other line. The gradient of the other line was negative 4 by 3. When you do this in your calculator, negative 1 divided by negative 4 by 3, your answer should be 3 by 4. So that is basically the gradient. So y is equals to, we have found that 3 by 4x plus c. We don't still know what c is, but it says passes through 5 and 6. So we can say that when x is 6, y is 5. So basically 5 is equals to 3 by 4 into 6 plus c. Now you want to find c, you can simply take the whole thing to the other side. You can solve it first as well, but you can take the whole thing, you will get c. So 5 minus 3 by 4 into 6. So c is basically equals to half. So the equation is 3 by 4x, the gradient, plus half. And as you can see, this is in the same form as well. So this was question number 10. I hope this question is clear. Now moving on to question number 11 now. Question number 11 says that the point negative 1, 6 lies on a curve, and this curve is a derived function of negative 4x cubed negative 9x squared plus 5. Show that negative 1, 6 is a stationary point on the curve. Now you guys gotta listen to me first. Whenever you have a function, there's basically a curve and it has a specific function, and when you find the derived function of it, so the meaning of derived function is that in this derived function, if you basically put the x value of the turning point, your answer should be 0. For example, in this case, it says that negative 1, 6 is the stationary point. When I put negative 1 instead of x in this, if I get 0, that means this is the stationary point or the turning point. So that I would simply say negative 4 times negative 1 cubed, negative 9 times negative 1 squared plus 5. Now use the calculator to get this answer. Negative 4 times negative 1 cubed, negative 9 times negative 1 squared plus 5 is basically 0. Now this 0 tells me that negative 1, 6 is the turning point. Yes, 0. Hence, always remember in the derived function, if you put the value of x of the stationary point, if it is a stationary point, if it is correct, then the result you will get is basically the y output you get is 0. A different curve has this function 2x cubed minus 6 plus 8. Calculate the gradient of the curve to this curve at the point negative 2 and 2. Now first of all, I need to find the derived function of it. The derived will basically be the x power, which is 3. I need to multiply this with 2. So 3 into 2 is 6 x, and now once I have multiplied, I would reduce this by 1, so it would be 2. Again, now x currently it's not mentioned, that means it has a power of 1. If I take 1 to the other side, it will be negative 6, it still remains same. Then what is left is 0, x to the power 0 is 1, so I don't need to write that. So I've got this is the dy over dx, that is the derived function of that equation. If I want to find the gradient at this point, I would simply put the x value. So 6 times negative 2 squared negative 6. 6 times negative 2 squared negative 6 is basically equals to 18. So that means the gradient of the curve is 18. The gradient of this curve is 18. Now it says that find the x coordinates of the stationary points on this curve. What does the stationary point mean? The stationary point means that the gradient would be 0. So I know that the derived function 6x squared minus 6x should give me 0 when I put the x value as a stationary point, but I do not know the x values. So 6x squared is equal to 6. X squared, if I take 6 on the other side in division, it becomes 1. So I want to find something that a square is equal to 1. So one of the x values is 1, but also remember that when you take a negative value and you square it, it gives you the same positive value. So x can be negative 1 also. So always remember, when you are asked the square root of a positive, like for example 25 or 36, it will be the positive also and the negative also. 1 and negative 1. Alright, I think this is the end of the paper. Yes, so I hope my video has helped you guys and the solutions are very clear. I'm just repeating that if you have any doubts or if you have past paper suggestions, you can post them in the comment and I will try to make the video as soon as possible. Moreover, if you notice that something is not matching with the marking scheme or some answer has been written wrong, please do comment down below so that I can correct it and you can help other viewers as well. Additionally, if you like my videos and just want to appreciate my efforts, you could use the super thanks on the YouTube, or you can also purchase my membership on YouTube, which is very cost effective and allows YouTube. There are a lot of benefits which you can hand perks. Alright, see you soon. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn that notification bell on. Share this video with your friends to help them in their studies. Alright, see you. Peace out. And see you in the next video, which is coming out soon.